Let's put it on. Right. Right, Dave, let's check if we're live, mate. Let's check if we're live. As Dave would say, we're live.
We're live. We're always live, but he doesn't trust me.
I know. I think if we had said a few times, I just want to make sure because I'm on the live and I can't see you actually, Dave.
You can't see me.
Which is strange. If you just joined us on the live, yeah, welcome. Just let us know if we're coming through loud and clear. If you can see Dave, because I can see him, but I'm not sure if you can. And I know this has happened before, Dave. So yeah, if you could drop a little comment in, that would be great. Just to let us know.
So what? Can you see me, or can they not see me?
Yeah, I can see you. I can see you loud and clear. See you visually. Where are you, Dave? Yeah, here we go. I had a feeling that might be the case. Tell you what, Dave, switch it on and off again, mate.
Yeah, I'm gonna dive out and dive back in again.
Okay. Go for it. They can hear you as well. Let's have a little look, see if he comes in. Okay, Dave, you're back on both. Let's have a look. Can everyone see Dave now? Can you just give us a little thumbs up if he is lost in translation? And now if you found him, give us a little thumbs up. Can you see Dave? Let us know, guys. If he's
I'm getting info that we can't. There he is.
There he is.
Yeah, there he is. There he is. We can see Dave now. Brilliant. Everyone's so happy.
He's back. Nice. Well done, Dave. Awesome. Well, hey everyone. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Another Tuesday tune in. Yeah, who's with us today? Let's have a little look. So Marky V on Hadrian Wall. Mark, nice to see you're stopping for a cuppa, mate. No rush. Keep hydrated. But yeah, I hope you're enjoying Hadrian's Wall. I've seen some pictures. It looks fantastic there. Who else is on the live? Dave, anyone you can see? I've got Mark, Ramona, Gavin, Joel.
Yeah, we've got Sinead, Mona, Paul Dewhurst. That was deliberate. Jane Adele Moody. Jane Adele Moody. Is the Adele new? I can't ever remember there being an Adele. I suppose this could be a different Jane Moody. Vu Walker. Hey, how you doing, Vu Walker? Mick Hamilton, obviously. What else is he going to be doing on a Tuesday but watching us? He's a legend, that man. I tell you what. Do you know what my favourite mountain is, and Island Peak?
I thought it's Island Peak. Yeah, I think we've been discussing Island Peak a while. Yeah, it's still there, Mick. Still there, mate. Waiting for you.
Yeah. I've had word down from the Khumbu. It's definitely still there. Yeah, not many people have been to the top though, so it's waiting for you. Dewey, how's it going, Dewey, Matt?
Dewey, nice to see you here, mate. Tina, Chris, Jane. Well, look, we got heaps of people on. Great to see some good numbers today. Yeah, and I thought today might be good because me and Dave were thinking about, okay, what do we talk about today? We've talked about a lot of different stuff, and this week was actually the first week we were able to run a trip, albeit in the UK. But we'll take it. Since it was the first time since March last year, so it felt pretty good here at Evertrek HQ, just being able to run a trip.
Yep.
Dave, I know that we were super stoked. I know we were chatting to Steve last week, who ran the trip for us, and up in North Wales. And I think we got a couple of people who were on that trip on the live. So yeah, Diane's on the live. Just give us some great little feedback from it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, Diane. Photos look fantastic. Was quite jealous. But yeah, it was just great to be able to run a trip, get back to doing what we love. We got another training weekend this weekend, which is with myself. Dave will be at base camp, but I'll be out there in the mountains with some of you Evertrekkers. Can't wait for that.
Yep.
And also as well, we got our first trip abroad since March this weekend, which is in Mount Toubkal. Although was a team of 18 because we had a lot of people booked in on that day, and now it's just down to one, right, Dave?
One man standing. So Kim is the last one there. Tina, we should say. Tina, hope you're doing very well. She had what started out as an awesome trip, and then I think went a bit sideways. But Tina, hope you're doing very well. Kim, 100%. He's on his way Friday, I believe.
He's on way Friday. Yeah, can't wait.
I should know such things, but I think it is Friday. Yeah.
Yes, no, we can't wait. Although it's just one person that's gone over to Toubkal. We were kind of determined to keep that date. I know a lot of people have chosen to reschedule, and fair dues. It's a bit mad right now, isn't it, with travel and all the hoops you've got to jump through. We know that. I was over in Spain last week, and obviously there's things you've got to do to go over there and to come back. So yeah, it's one of those things. But yeah, fair dues for Kim to be able to go over there, and can't wait to see the Evertrek flag the banner on the summit. So Kim, yeah, can't wait to see you out there, mate. Jamal, looking forward to receiving you when you land. So right, but Dave, right, let's crack on with today then. Obviously, I know that running all these trips, we were talking a little bit about training, what experience people need.
Yep.
It's kind of started off that conversation, didn't it? So we thought, let's talk about that today. Let's talk about, okay, what experience actually do you need in terms of training, and what type of training is better? I mean, do you need to climb Ben Nevis 3 times a week? And that's the kind of level you need to be at? Or, do you need to be focusing on the time? Do you need to be focusing on the distance? And that sparked today's live, Dave, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So we did, so obviously yesterday they went up and did this, 4 guys did the Snowdonia Explorer trip. Well, not yesterday, sorry, it was over the weekend. And yeah, it just got us thinking, because we were talking about trips, and obviously then we've got Toubkal going ahead. So the first few, rays of light are coming through the cloud now. Trips are starting to go here and there. And we just, obviously that as soon as trips start going, the questions about training and fitness and stuff like that come up. And we haven't done one for a while. We've got some new faces. So what we thought about is, we'll just do a bit of we'll talk about the do's and don'ts of training for high altitude trekking, and what we do and what's worked for us, what's failed for us. And, how fit do you actually need to be to go to Everest Base Camp? And then obviously, the difference between training for something like base camp and then Aconcagua, and where you want to sort of place yourself, because they are different. So yeah, that's what we thought we'd do.
Nice, Dave. Well, where should we start? I mean, I suppose let's go into, obviously our classics. I know we briefly touched on Island Peak, we talked about Toubkal.
Yeah.
If you got the email we sent out earlier, we mentioned Kili, mentioned base camp, Dave mentioned Aconcagua there. I mean, essentially any high altitude trip that you're going on, that could be to base camp, Kili, Island Peak, Annapurna, Machu Picchu, whatever you're going. I think one of the biggest obstacles that we had before was around fitness, and people thinking, okay, how fit do I actually need to be then?
Yeah.
And it is a very good question, but something that we kind of do push back on, because you don't need to be an elite athlete. You don't need to be climbing Ben Nevis 3 times a week. It certainly helps, and we always say this, guys, that the amount of training that you do will help. You'll have a far better time. But sometimes it's just about getting the kind of miles in there. So a big one, I suppose we'll start off is what's more important then, going the distance and doing, say, 15 miles, or doing sort of 4 or 5 hours of just hiking in the mountains. And Dave, question to you, what's more important?
100%. It's more time than miles. It's about building endurance in the legs and strength over time in the legs. So you want to be a marathon runner, not a sprinter, really. So what I will always say is, when people ask me the question, what's the longest day on the base camp trek, for instance, I actually don't know off the top of my head, because when you're there, you don't ever calculate the distance you walk in terms of miles. When you ask the guides, how far is it to Dingboche, they won't say 6 miles, they'll say 6 hours. And that's how you calculate the time, because walking a mile at sea level doesn't, it takes about 20 minutes on average, depending on how fast you walk. And then that a mile at altitude can take you the same 20 minutes, or it can take you an hour and a half. So building that time in the mountains is something that I concentrated on. The first time I ever went to base camp, I remember I did loads of training. Me and Andy did training together. My friend Billy, we did training together. And what we would do is, rather than think about, okay, we're going to go and walk 10 miles today, we'd go into the Brecon Beacons and say, right, we're going to do 6 hours today. We're just going to find a route, walk it 6 hours. If we've got an hour to spare, we'll do a bit of exploring down that ridge. Inevitably, it might be a bit longer. And I find that helped, because when you're out in the mountains, when you're going up Kilimanjaro and you're walking for long periods of time, you might be able to walk 10 miles, but if it takes you 3 hours, you're not necessarily going to be prepared to walk for 15 hours. Although you can do the mileage, your legs aren't used to sustaining that level of energy for so long. So yeah, definite hours, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I think time is the key here. Because we do get some questions drop into the inbox sometimes, and can you give us daily distances? And we always, if we got that data, we will, because we do keep the distances from when we're on the trips, because we've got our Garmin's, and some of our other trekkers have shared that data with us as well. Which is great, from all the trips. But more importantly, it is the hours that you're actually doing it, because if you do go out on terrain, and not everyone lives in the mountains. I think Bry's on here. He's a keen runner himself, but he hasn't got many mountains around him. So for him to get out for 4 hours on Saturday or whatever, it's kind of fine, and because it's flat, but you're still out, you're still walking. And on these trips, okay, there's a couple aside, if you're climbing, maybe if you're on, the Ring of Fire trip, for instance, or you're climbing Aconcagua or Elbrus, then, or Island Peak, there is some bits of climbing around, and, it's not technical climbing. Whereas all the other trips you do, you're just walking essentially. So if you can just get out there and walk for 4 or 5 hours, then that's what you're going to be doing at altitude. Obviously, the fitter you are, your body's going to be better at altitude.
Yeah,
it's how you acclimatize. And if you can get used to that, and just doing the time rather than the distance, you will do better at altitude, because you'll be used to it.
Yeah,
and that's what the guides will be communicating to. I mean, some of them who are really on it, and they're really into their data, and they'll be able to tell you, okay, we've got like 4.6 miles and all this. So, you get some who are really on it, but most of the time, and to be honest, the key is just around time. So try and, if you think about that, if you're out in the mountains and you're training, and again, the guys are out this weekend, we're going out doing some training this weekend, which is, you're just out in the mountains, but we always look at the time that we're out in the mountains rather than the okay, we're going to nail this distance now, because it's not a race. And I know we always get caught up in that, don't we? That, probably from maybe in school, right, that we're taught to sort of, in terms of distance, okay, we're going for that. And it's sometimes we get quite competitive, which is fair enough. And there's time and a place for that. But when you're altitude, you've got to kind of put that competitiveness in the back pocket, really, and leave that aside, because it's not about how fast you can get there. It's about getting there. It's all it is. It's about just getting there.
Yeah.
And once you get that into your mind, it becomes a far more enjoyable experience, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that we always say that the training aspect of it is twofold. One side of it is the mindset, one side of it is the physical training. And the more you put into getting those in tip-top shape, the more fun you'll have. But 100%, one of the top questions that we have about people concerned about fitness, or sometimes they're concerned about their age, is what if I slow the group down? I'm a really slow hiker, I'm not that fit, can I still do it? And we say, listen, it's trying to frame what this trip is in that person's mind, because these trips are not endurance events. They're not runs, they're not marathons. You don't get a medal for finishing first and then a silver for finishing second. What they are is it's supposed to be an experience, that you do together as a group. And then naturally the group spreads out. Some people are faster than others. That's always the case. But you're a caterpillar, so you always stay connected. You just stretch a little bit. And so I'm being distracted by Penny crying in my ear.
I know it's a doorbell, right? Yeah, and I think Leah mentioned doorbell equals Penny. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the dog walker takes Penny out when we're in the office. She's got a little doorbell, and then we go down and get her.
Yeah.
Penny needs a walk just like us, right? She needs her training too, 100%. So Dave, just moving on for that, then obviously we got the idea around that, and Brian mentioned something really key as well, which is something which is good, is to, whilst you're at sea level, carry a little bit more than you probably would do normally, when you're out and about. Certainly something that I've done a lot of in the past is have a heavy bag. Dave, I know you're like, what have you actually got in there, Rand?
Yeah, it's amazing. One time you had a full laptop in there on his way to EBC, it's like,
we'll never stops, mate.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I'm more of a I aim to travel light. Yeah, but the thing is about like Brian's making a really good point here, and it will help you for altitude by carrying a bit of a weighted bag, because obviously when you get to altitude, carrying that weight is much harder. So on average, a day pack can be anything from 5 to 7, 8 kilograms, including your water. Now, if you carry that at sea level, that's not that hard at all, but at altitude, going up Kilimanjaro, that feels like you've got a gorilla on your back. So do some training, and I tend to just weight my bag with just, you couldn't put a plate in there or sand and all this crazy stuff. To be honest, it's so easy to add weight to your bag just by carrying stuff. So like spare pair of trainers, shoes, flask, sandwiches, all of that stuff, and then weigh it, and it does add up, and it does make a big difference, because again, it's about the endurance in the legs. You want the legs to be strong over a long period of time, and that all helps.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and just a little caveat as well, like, me and Dave, we're not PTs here. We're not telling you, okay, go to the gym, do this amount of sets, do this amount of weights, do this sort of stuff. We're just coming from kind of what works, for all of our Evertrekkers that we've ever taken and us, which is literally thousands now of people. Not so much over the last 18 months, but yeah, it's certainly from experience. It's just getting out there, a pack on your back, heavier than normal. That's the kind of basics of it. There's obviously more technical stuff you can do. I think Andy mentioned about using ankle weights, for instance. I think Shona mentioned doing some strength training as well with the legs. You can do some single leg movements in the gym, definitely to build up that strength. And I think something that really worked for me the very first time I went to altitude was doing basically almost to failure exercises. So what you're doing is, this is in the gym now. And again, not PT, this is just from experience. And that's just that, if you're doing, say, push-ups, which Dave just recorded me doing some out there. It's my little warm-up for the live. I was doing some push-ups. But yeah, if you're doing any bench pressing or any leg weights or anything at all that you can go to failure, apparently that's better for your altitude. Just something I've heard on the grapevine is that if you can push your body, your muscles to failure, then when that, apparently when, you're at an oxygen deprived environment, trying to get my words out, your muscles tend to perform better.
Yeah.
So that was something that I did before I went to altitude for the very first time. I worked a treat, and like you say, you don't need to be He-Man here. You don't need to be Superwoman. We get lots of shapes and sizes on our trips.
100%.
But it does help. Certainly does help, which is why we're talking about it today. Because over the last sort of 6 to 12 months, we talked a lot about mindset, talked a lot about equipment. All the different stuff that comes into it. Weather. All the things that come into a trip. The training is really important. And also as well, I suppose, moving on to our next step, Dave, is like, when do you actually start training? Do you start training, if you're booking your trip 2 years in advance, do I start now? Or do I leave it until maybe 6 months? Or do I leave it until like 8 weeks before I go? I mean,
yeah,
because we get a lot of people who have, even booked like to go last April, for instance, and they're now rescheduled and then maybe going next April. They're like, right, okay, when do I start now? What would you suggest from that perspective?
So, yeah, I mean, there's two schools of thought on it, and they kind of do, there's sort of some crossover. So the one of, what we call is like your base level fitness. Now, there's a lot of different types of people. I know people who are perhaps, they fluctuate in their fitness. I'm perhaps one of those, where, so I tend to, my base level fitness will drop off in between doing stuff, and then when I have a trip to prepare for, so if I book DBC a year in advance, I'd start my training a year in advance. I generally think it's a good idea to start training once you've booked the trip. If you've booked it 2 years in advance, it depends on what so I'll start again. So if you're training for a marathon, obviously, and you've got a very specific length of time, you're going to be very regimented in your training, and you're going to be building up to that event. Building up, getting to peak fitness, tapering off towards the end for recovery, and then doing the event. If you've got 2 years, obviously that's not really going to work, because you can't maintain that level of intensity without picking up an injury or something like that. Yeah. So my advice is to just try and maintain a good base level of fitness. It doesn't have to be intense. You just want to get out a couple of days a week, 2-3 days a week, and you want to be getting yourself mountain fit. So generally that means good, strong legs with powerful endurance and a good core. So some weightlifting is really good for that. Personally, I concentrate on my cardio and my endurance. So my cardio is, I do it all on the bike now. I can't run anymore. I used to be able to run, quite good at running, and now my knee has seen to that dead. So all my cardio now is pretty much done on the bike. And then in the gym, you've got the Stairmasters and things like that are, I mean, the Stairmaster machine, that revolving staircase, there hasn't been a machine better developed for training you for going up mountains, in the gym, that is. But the best thing you can do, get it in the mountains, and do that. Generally what we used to do is do sort of like, maybe you go out once or twice a week in the gym and stuff like that, and then plan quite a long day in the mountains on the weekend. If you go hiking with Andy, it's not unusual to be out 10 hours, sometimes 13, 14 if he takes you on a shortcut. So
shortcut. Well, it's always more scenic that way, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Stairmaster is so sickeningly evil. Andy McNaughton evil. Yeah, it is sheer brutal. But what it does do is it trains the endurance. So a lot of the climbing, a lot of the, especially on EBC and Kili and these natural rocky environments, it's all stepped. EBC, it's steps all the way to base camp and then steps all the way down. So getting that motion and getting good strong quads and stuff like that is really good. And also you can then rack it up and go to failure, like Andy said, train the muscles to sort of exhaust themselves and then recover. And then the more you do that, the more you'll recover. And then when you have a big day in EBC or big day on Kili, your legs will be used to that level of sort of endurance, and then the next day be able to carry you again for the next 5 miles.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just reading through some of the comments. Yeah, nice to see people dropping in as well. Definitely great to hear Ramona, you know, is on the tune in instead of chatting to her partner. Great stuff. Yeah, call it back afterwards, Ramona. You can sort that out. But Brian makes a good point. You know, another idea, and Dave, I think this one's for you. If you're training for a trek, stay off your mountain bike to avoid injury. I think, I think that's definitely directed at you, Dave.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's actually a little bit of advice I would give. I mean, having said that, though, if I say like, have I learned my lesson? Am I going to go back to downhill? And I remember when I did it, I said to Andy, I said, my downhill days are over now, and I'm going to just do more cross country stuff. But the fitter I'm getting, the more I'm thinking, I'll go back to it.
Well, you can't. I think you know, through life, you love what you love, don't you? And I know you really enjoy it, and you know, you don't want to take that away from you, but obviously temper that with a bit of caution next time.
Yeah, well, no, yeah, there's going to be a bit. Yeah, I'll tell you what now. This is one of the things, and maybe there's a lesson in here. We can try and extract one for hiking. Yeah. My problem was the reason, I've deconstructed the accent in my brain a million times. There was a couple of things that I did wrong that caused it. One, I wasn't fit enough to be doing the types of trails that I was doing. I wasn't, I bit off way more than I could chew because I used to be able to do it. And then I lost a lot of my fitness through lockdown because I stopped going out on my bike. And then I was still doing the trails that I used to be able to do. And that was silly. Because when you're fatigued, you stop moving around, you stop doing the things you need to do to keep yourself well. And I didn't look after my equipment as well. I had too much air in my tires. And the same thing, when you're training for EBC, a lot of people do this where they'll they'll book EBC or book Kilimanjaro, and then 2 weeks later, they'll go on a 25-mile hike, to almost prove to themselves that they can do it. Where actually, I think just don't worry about doing that. Take it nice, take it steady, do smaller goals. And first of all, just go out and do a 5-mile hike or a 5-hour hike. Just go out and say, I'm going to enjoy myself for 5 hours. Even if I only walk 4 miles, it doesn't matter. You're out in the hills, you're enjoying yourself, and your legs are getting used to that. You're getting used to, one of the things as well I find different is when you're in the gym, it's the same environment all the time. It's the same level of humidity. It's the same temperature. It's the same everything. Where when you're going out in the mountains and you're hiking in the cold, in the heat, in the rain, and sometimes the ground is slippy, sometimes it's grippy, all of that stuff, it trains the mind and the body, and so they're working together. So when you do go to the mountains, you feel so much more in tune with what you're doing. So I do think that there's no substitute for getting out in the hills. I know you'd agree with that as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, this does come down to location. You have to bring that into it because not everyone lives there, but or has it, within a suitable sort of travel distance. But I think Brian makes a good point as well. And make sure you find a hydration buddy. That's very good. I know Brian and Mick certainly on a couple of training weekends. On the last training weekend we actually run before this one. Was plenty hydrated. But Dave, I reckon we'll answer some of the questions because we've got a lot coming in actually from the beginning. I know we had a couple previously and a few coming in here. I hope our little intro there, I know it's slightly longer than normal, but we wanted to do it justice.
Was that just the intro?
Just the intro, mate.
I thought we were doing it.
But regarding some of the questions, do drop them in, guys. I say we've got about another half hour, 35 minutes. Do drop them in so we can sort of cover them. But first couple of questions are coming, Dave. Have you got the questions from Fee? Fee's on the comments today, by the way.
Yeah, so we got Fee on the phones. Lauren is taking some time off. God, how the other half live. So Fee said this is from, who's it from? James Frost.
James, yeah.
So he's booked on to Toubkal in November this year, and Island Peak November next year. Is it necessary to take his inflatable sleeping mat? He's got the Thermarest Neo X. I think I've got that one. Might be
Yeah, I've got that one.
Neo Extherm. Yeah, I think we both got those. Honestly, I would take it 100%. The reason being is because you'd want it, even if you don't use it, it's about this big when it's packed down and it weighs nothing. Yeah, so I would definitely say take it. Because if you do find yourself getting like, I like to almost lie on the floor. I don't have a problem with it. But Andy, on the other hand, you like a softer bed. So when we went to Kili, I brought my inflatable and we ended up swapping, didn't we? So we could have like share it around a bit.
I think my back was playing up, and Dave did the nice gentleman thing, which was make me blow it all up myself at altitude. At 4,500 meters, which was
that was the real reason why. Because that's actually the top tip. If you do bring it, get a little battery powered or at least a hand powered pump, because blowing that sucker up every day on Kili. I remember one time I did it, and I was like, Andy, I see stars. You know,
well, so you're exerting yourself, and you're only bringing in a certain amount of oxygen.
Yeah,
so you gotta be careful if you're ever doing that at altitude, guys.
Yeah, and then when we got close to Barafu camp, Andy was like, "Can I borrow the thing?" I was like, "Yes." I was like, "But you've got to blow it up."
Take it. But no, it's a good question. I think, if you go into Toubkal and Island Peak, certainly, good. If you go into Toubkal November, good practice then, isn't it, for Island Peak?
Yeah.
In terms of blowing it up, but you're obviously not as high as you will be, when you trek into Island Peak. But it's nice, and it keeps that little gap between you and the surface.
Yeah.
So they're really good. I say having got that and used it in quite cold conditions. I think the coldest I probably had that was about -11. I think I camped in Brecon Beacons stupidly on the top Pen y Fan one night in November, and it was about 6 inches of snow on the ground. And it was cold, but I had that, and it keeps your body nice and elevated above the surface. So it's really good. Martin Skevens, hi there. We're going to Everest Base Camp this October. Personally, I've been walking 60k each week. Wow. Mainly the flat country, weighted sack going up. What can I do to make my trip easier? Well, hopefully, fingers crossed about October. Martin, I know we sent out a little email today just around the autumn, and just a little update on that. So I hope you got that, Martin. But regarding, what can you do to make your trip easier? Certainly, I think if you're doing that a week, that's really good. It's a great sort of level. You're probably doing most than at least 50% of people who will be going on your trip, if I'm honest, which is a good start point. Don't forget all the stuff we always say around, pace, hydration. So start off with pace. Just go super slow. I always go as slow as the slowest person because it means I'm the most acclimated. But when you listen to your guide, make sure that you're not sort of rushing off. And then hydration and more hydration. So if you before you go on the trip, just sort of plan to be drinking 4 liters a day. If you did that and religiously drank 4 liters a day, it's very, very, very unlikely you're going to get altitude issues if you go the same pace as the rest of your group. And the last thing I'd probably suggest, just enjoy it. Keep positive. Go out there, and I know you've been waiting for this for a long time. I hope it goes ahead. If it doesn't, when you do go, try and drink it in, drink the environment in, speak to the people there, enjoy the culture. They've had no one for 18, 19 months, they want to meet people and, enjoy it, get to know your guide, get to know your group. Take pictures of the Milky Way if you're lucky enough to see it in the night. And you'll have an awesome time. So look after the mind. I think you've done a lot physically, and you'll be fine. I don't think there's anything else you can do before you go. I kind of tapered it off. So if you're going in October and it does go ahead, maybe think about 2 weeks before just to kind of taper off that walking, just so you can save your body a bit before you go.
Yeah. The only thing I would probably add to that, he's mentioned he does it mainly on the flat. Maybe go on a treadmill, put it on the incline, because it does the muscles that you activate are a little bit differently when you're going uphill, and so just get used to doing some hills and stuff like that as well. I know it's difficult. I know Paul Meacher lives in the flat as well, so I think he struggles with finding a mountain to climb. But get on a treadmill, put it on the incline, or do the Stairmaster. You know what? I even saw one the other day, and this is a little digress. It's called Jacob's Ladder. And instead of a Stairmaster, it's like a revolve. It's got like lots of these wooden rungs.
Yeah.
And they revolve, and all 4 legs is like you're like climbing like a rat climber, on it like that. And then it counts the amount of like floors that you go up. And I'm not gonna go on it. But
I'll give it a go. Give anything a go once.
So Kate Muffet has said,
Yeah.
would doing the 3 peaks be a good climb to do? 100%. I'm assuming that's the Ben Nevis, Scaffold, and Snowdon. Yeah, 100%. Whether you want to do it on the challenge or not is entirely up to you. I think all 3 of them offer good training opportunities for any high altitude trek.
Yeah.
Ben Nevis, I've only ever done Ben Nevis once, and I did it via the CMD route, which I highly recommend over the normal route. The normal route, it's still good and it's still tough, but the CMD just offers you a bit more entertainment, really, because it's a ridge walk. And then Snowdon, Scaffold. Weirdly, shameful. I've never been up Scaffold. You have, haven't you? And have you been up Scaffold?
Yeah.
I've never done that, but yeah, 100%. They're both really good peaks to do. All 3 of them are really good peaks to do. And I think, if you're lucky enough to live in North Wales or something like that, and you can get out into Snowdonia's range, there's loads of amazing peaks you can go up. They're not just Snowdon. And and climbing mountains and trekking up hills is the perfect training to do for climbing mountains and trekking up hills.
Yeah, 100%. That definitely is. You're building up that. Doing the 3 peaks is a great challenge in itself, but it's practice, isn't it, for when you're out there? And I know the 3 peaks, some of it is done during the night. So if you're doing Kili, or if on the Everest base camp trip, you climb the Kilimanjaro, which is in the dark. If you're on Island Peak, for instance, you go over the summit and you're in the dark. Aconcagua, for instance, anytime you're hiking in the dark is really good, just from a mental perspective, because that's one thing you kind of get surprised about on Kili, I think, is the amount of time you're hiking during the dark, and can be quite hard. So any time that you're hiking in the dark with a head torch, and going for it is going to help. But yeah, Jacob's Ladder, I saw that mentioned. Yeah, there's a few Jacob's Ladders in the UK. There's actually one near Pen y Fan.
Yeah, I've done the Pen y Fan one.
I've done the Pen y Fan one in the peaks, though. I have to try that one.
Yeah, Jerome, let us know which one you want about. If it's the Pen y Fan one, I've done that. I don't know.
I know I've done that.
I mean,
hundreds of times.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. It's definitely tough. I mean, when I say I've done it, I mean a lot of people do like the fan dance. The soldiers. I know Mick and Bry are probably familiar with Jacob's Ladder on Pen y Fan. I remember one time when I did it, and the soldiers were going past me, and fair play to those guys, because the rate that they got up, that was just insanity. But no, that's really good.
I think this is one of the reasons we're doing this one today, is because a lot of people think that they have to do things like the 3 peaks, things like just nailing Ben Nevis and things like that. So don't think that you have to be able to do that just to tick that box to be able to do Everest Base Camp. It's all part of the journey, all part of the training. If you didn't climb those mountains and all you did was climb a bunch of other mountains, but you're out more often, it's probably going to be better for you. So don't think that you have to do these kind of things. You can just get out there, pack on your back, chuck some extra gear in there, get it weighted, because then when you're on the trip and you're super light, it's going to help you a lot, rather than just, it is nice though, isn't it, to just tick that off the list. And I get that, but don't think you have to do that to be able to kind of, okay, I have to be able to do that before I do this. Don't think that you've got to be able to do the 3 peaks to do Everest Base Camp. Yeah. And a lot of people who go on Everest Base Camp, and they're just hill walkers. They haven't climbed many big mountains.
Yeah,
but they do it because they want to go there. Right, Dave. A couple of others. Let's have a look. Joel, out of curiosity, which day is the toughest heading to EBC? It's always
that's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's a good one actually, because I know there's 2 days for me that stand out, Dave. I know day 2, which is climbing up to Namche, because that's the first bit of altitude.
Yeah,
and hiking for about 8 hours. The last 2.5 is all uphill, up Namche Hill. That can be challenging for people, but I think base camp day for me would have to be the hardest day. Would you agree, Dave? You with that?
Definitely, I'd say definitely that's going to be one of the toughest. You know what? It's base camp 4 times now, and if you asked me after each trip, my answer would probably be different. Like day 2 is always going to stand out as a tough one, because there's no real warming up to it. Day 1 is really easy. You lose altitude all the way. You go from 2.7 to 2.4, something like that, and then you've got to get up to 3,400. So that once you cross the Hillary Bridge and you go up to Namche, there's no getting around that. It's uphill for 3 hours. But then I remember one time I did that, and I thought, wow, that was really hard.
Yeah.
And then I went back and did it a few months later. So I did it in April with you, and although every day was hard on that one for me, but that was because of
you had shingles, right?
That was shingles, yeah. when I came back in October and I did it, I was dreading that day because I remembered how tough it was. I was seriously one of the last to come in. Not that that's a bad thing, but I was one of the last because I couldn't go any faster physically.
Yeah.
I really needed the toilet. It was a horrible day. So I was dreading it. I got over the bridge and I was like, oh, this is going to be really difficult. And then I flew up there. I couldn't believe it. I got to the top and I saw the little checkpoint. I was like, my God, I'm nearly in Namche.
Yeah.
And then I found actually one of the hardest days for me was on that last trip was Tugla Pass, going from up to Lobouché.
Yeah. That's why you struggled that day, didn't you? I think it was your health.
Yeah, that was the
Rather
health.
than
That was,
challenge.
yeah, that was, yeah. Well, in retrospect, I wouldn't have gone, because of the old Shingalese.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that, day 2, Tengboche Hill's quite tough. To be honest, actually, do you know what? I'm going to say it. The toughest day for me is Ferice to Namche on the way back.
Really?
I just
On the
don't know
downhill?
don't know what it is. It's not the downhill. It's that uphill through the forest up to
Yeah, that is
Tengboche.
quite tough. That is quite tough.
That's a tough one. But yeah, every day for some reason that day just gets me.
So basically, every day is difficult, Dave. Is what
Every day's difficult. I tell you what's not difficult. Which day is quite easy. Aside
Day
from
one.
Douglas Pass, Dingboche to Lobouché is quite an easy day.
Yeah.
Lobouché to Ferice, no, Gorek Shep to Ferice, long but fairly easy.
Yeah.
I say fairly easy. It all depends. I've seen some people have some rough days on there. See what I mean? It's so subjective. It's great.
It is. I think. Yeah.
It's easier when you get a helicopter, I reckon.
Oh, is it, Dave?
Yeah.
Nice. A couple of questions actually dropping in. I'm going to sort of jump ahead a little bit around training weekends, winter skills. Saw a bunch of questions coming in. I think Laura's asked it. I think Michelle and Tom just asked around training weekends. So yeah, firstly, training weekend. The one in this week is fully booked, unfortunately. But we've got another one in September that has quite a lot of spaces. I think that's on the week of the 24th September. If you're interested in that one, yeah. So it starts on catch up on the 24th, and then that weekend, so the 25th, 26th of September. Fee, if you're on the comments there, can you just drop the link into the training weekend? Just if anyone wants to book into that. Yeah, great to have you with us. It's always a great weekend. Winter skills, yeah, is another one. So Steve, who ran our last weekend up in North Wales, we're looking to do winter skills in Scotland and a winter skills in North Wales. We haven't yet got those dates for the winter. We're going to be catching up with Steve and then putting those dates up there, just to make sure that it fits in with the diaries and things, and then get yourself booked in, because they're going to be great sort of prep for any winter basic conditions you're going to be in. That could be winter in Toubkal, that could be Aconcagua, that could be Elbrus, could be Island Peak, Mera Peak, whatever you go in that involves crampon use, and trekking in winter conditions is going to be great. So yeah, we will be doing those, guys. It's going to be kind of a weekend thing, similar to the rest of our kind of trips, because obviously we understand people, I know some people don't, but some people with, have obviously got leave and things like that. We always try and keep them to the weekend. So yeah, I hope that kind of helps. And yeah, it'd be great to see you on one of the training weekends.
Yep.
Obviously you get myself and Dave, which is all about the altitude, really. Obviously Steve with his mountain experience, very experienced, ex-Marine, mountain guides, got a lot of experience in the UK and Europe. Definitely very valuable. I mean, I know there's a couple of people on here who've met Steve already, Stephen Jones. And yeah, he's a great guide. Definitely have an awesome time with him or some of his team, because I know this weekend we had Dewey as well, who was on his team. Right, Dave. Yeah, what's the kind of next question? Is what we got?
So yeah, having a little look here that I can see. So so Jerome has asked an interesting one. What time do I need to get to the Story Arms to get a space? About 8 a.m. Jerome. Any later than that?
I don't go to Story Arms.
Yeah,
too busy for me.
Yeah, but get there by 8. Otherwise,
I'm from the other side.
Let's have a quick look. So does it help to have heavier weighted items? This is from Haley. In different place in the backpack, top of the pack, across the middle. Does it make a difference when walking uphill? So generally considering, as a general rule, when you're packing your bag, I would always put the heavier stuff towards the bottom anyway. So the bulk of the weight is sort of held around your hips and the lower back, and that's just a matter of course of whenever you're packing it. Now the reason is because if you have something really heavy at the top of your bag, it's going to sort of pull, and it's going to pull on the shoulders and tweak the neck and stuff like that. So yeah, I always go like heavier sort of down below and then lighter towards the top. Just makes a big difference in terms of, it doesn't really make a difference in terms of your fitness, but if you like where you have it won't help you develop a certain area, but what won't help your fitness is tweaking your neck, having sore shoulders, having a sore back and stuff like that, because you've got a big old pair of Maindle Boutans right at the back of your neck. Yeah, put them at the bottom. I mean, they should be on your feet, but you know, just in case.
Sorry, not Jerome. Jane asked about story arms, but yeah.
Is it Jane? Is it? Oh, okay,
it was Jane. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of J's. That's all right. Jerome was just at the top.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Jerome. Sorry, Jane. Hope you find a parking space. It's always difficult around that bingo. Still playing bingo. We need to get some of those bingo cards. Right, let's have a little look. I think Laura, yeah, I hope you had an awesome time the weekend. Saw some of the pics, look fantastic. Hoping to book the Patagonia Ice Fields trip. Want to figure out equipment and gear. Again, Laura, sorry, I missed this question around winter courses. Yeah, we will be doing some, as I mentioned there, around winter courses as well. So yeah, hopefully you get on that. Rebecca has asked, when would you advise to buy the boots? Give me time to wear them in for EBC next October. Dave, when would you buy your boots, mate?
Yesterday.
I'm not sure what boots they may be, but
yeah, I'd have bought them yesterday, today, tomorrow. Get them as soon as you can, to be honest, because I've bought a couple of pairs of boots in the past that I've bought, tried, didn't like, had to save up, get another pair, because you can't really send them back once you realize that they're no good after you wore them 10 times. So no, I would say, obviously, you all know my favorite set of boots. It's taken me a long time to arrive at a good pair of hiking boots. That's partially not because I never really struggled with the comfort on the feet or rubbing or blisters. To me, it was all about helping what used to be my bad knee, but is now my good knee. So I used to have that problem. So I really do like the Maindle Boutans. I know they become a bit of a cliche, but they are a really, really good boot. From the moment I wore them, so I bought mine 2 weeks before I went to EBC. And I just wore them casually, with my jeans, like for 2 weeks. And I realized immediately that they're not going to rub. There was no pain. There was nothing. And they were fine from the box fresh. But you don't want to take that risk, because I also I did that exact thing when I did the Glencoe Challenge with a pair of boots. And I would have sawn off my own feet if I had a saw. So I think, buy them as soon as you can. Start wearing them. You don't want to wear them out. But the great thing about Maindles is that they will they'll last you 10, 15 years. So if you decide to go a different way and get another pair, some of the synthetics, Gore-Texy type ones, the Salomons and stuff like that, they don't last as long. They'll last you a few years, but they don't last like 10 years. But get them now. Start wearing them. Start enjoying them, and because there's nothing better than putting on a really good worn-in pair of boots that's still got plenty of life left. And like, I remember I went to base camp. Remember, and you used your hedgehogs one time when you went to base camp, and they were that was the last trek I think you did, right, with them.
That was So first couple of trips I did, I used them. I still recommend them, by the way, because I've done base camp many times, but I think 3 times with these. That was the North Face Hedgehog GTX. I'm not sure if because I haven't bought any for a number of years now, because I do use the Maindles, just because I found them just as comfy. But you got to look after them. Obviously, there's lots of boots out there. There's so many out there. I think, we've done a live all about boots before, as well as many different type of equipment. But there's lots. I think Dave, you mentioned Salomon there. Always great. You've got Scarpa, La Sportiva. Any of them are going to be good, really good boots. I mean, obviously, some of them are premium price. But for some reason, the old school looking ones, maybe leather, they seem to last the longest. They're always good. I really love the Maindles. I think a question popped in there around, I think it was Rebecca again. Do they have good ankle support? And I suppose I could. The only advice I can say, or the only example I can say around it is that I was on the Glencoe Challenge a couple of months back, and about halfway through, I rolled my ankle. I was wearing the Maindles, and it happens sometimes. I don't know why. It could be the way I kind of walk, but this is where I wear boots rather than trail shoes, even though the terrain's not crazy. is because that can happen anytime, and you just, you could be thinking about something, you could be, listening to a podcast, whatever it is, whatever you do. And I rolled my ankle, and if it wasn't for the Maindle Boutans, I think I would have snapped my ankle easy, because it was a hefty one, like one of those where you go down, and you kind of, your foot sort of crumples. And if it wasn't for the support that the Maindles had, I certainly would have had, I would have been worse off. That would have been game over for months. So, yeah, any boot. I personally like ankle support. I know there's a lot of people out there that, tend to have better stability with their legs, and they maybe do trail run-ins, things like that. Yes, Maindle Boutans. I think definitely they're playing bingo now, Dave. Yeah, they're definitely, because there's lots. When it comes to trail running, because you're on the move a bit quicker. That's why I think some people wear trail shoes and it works. But for me, I'll always wear ankle supports. I've just seen it happen too many times, especially in the mountains. You don't want to, I know it's nice wearing lighter things on your feet, but for having a little bit of ankle support can give you that peace of mind then that you can go and you can crack on with your trip. And okay, don't be stupid, but gives you that bit of support. You don't want to roll an ankle, do you? Halfway going to Everest Base Camp, you'd be gutted. I've seen it happen. And, if you can do something about that, then, that's why we recommend some of the boots that we do.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we have a lot of people. I'm not sure if I'm remembering this right, but I think Ramona, do you wear trail shoes? I can't remember.
She does.
Oh yeah, trails. Yeah, I'm sure I've had this conversation with Ramona and I think a few other people. And I always say, listen, there's no right or wrong. Find what's right for you. But if you're asking our advice, it's always boots. A mid boot, I would say. You don't need a high boot, the ones that go into the shin, because then they become a bit too restrictive. So I always, a mid boot is fine. The Maindles actually have like a memory foam upper, so they're really comfy and they don't chafe or anything like that. But then, I've met a guy who's like a fell runner, and he just can't hike in boots. But then he's used to that type of terrain. The only thing I say is just factor in where you're going, because when you're at altitude, if you're fatigued, I'm thinking on the way down from Kilimanjaro. So those people that have done that, Jerome and whoever else, will know that that's a long day. You're tired. Sometimes they're like half asleep when they're walking, not paying attention to where their feet are going, and just having a little bit of ankle support can make the difference between, a nice, pleasant descent and,
being carried.
And being carried.
But
and it's the same for things like, but then also there are times where boots are sort of, if you're doing a peak like Island Peak, Mera Peak, even Aconcagua. Am I right in saying Andy McNaughton Jones? Have you done Aconcagua? I know someone's on you who's done Aconcagua.
Yeah, I think Andy has. I know he's potentially done Kili. Andy, sorry. I know there's a lot. Know a lot of Andys.
I'm sure he's done Aconcagua, but I can't remember. But anyway, boots are mandatory. Then you can't do those peaks without boots, because no shoe will offer the stability, the stiffness, the insulation. They're not crampon compatible, so there's loads of different stuffs like that. But take it easy, when you're doing that.
Yeah, it is, Andy. Yeah, good shout. Yeah, so he's obviously got some experience with that as well, and you know a bit more about your feet. But I think Shona makes a good point, and we've said it numerous times before, is that these are just our personal recommendations. But if you do go into store, and obviously if you're in the UK, I know people watching from all the way around the world. Go into a store. Get fitted out properly, try some boots on, definitely make sure they're for you. And then that's probably the best way to know. I mean, because I know a size that 100% works and has worked loads, I can buy online. I get away with it. I think once I ordered a pair of boots, and they were a pair of Salomons actually, and they were a bit too narrow for me. Did send them back. But the rest of them, I've always been lucky with boots. But I'd say professional, in terms of a professional opinion, definitely get yourself to a store. It's good, isn't it? You can buy loads of other stuff. Why not? And if you go to Cotswold, don't forget to use your discount.
Yeah.
Right, Dave. Is there anything else to cover off? I know we've gone through most of the questions. Any other questions, guys? Do drop them in just before. We got probably another 5-10 minutes.
So. Michelle Rose has asked a couple of questions. Is it worth doing a night trek for the summit? I think Kilimanjaro. 100%. I think, just doing like an overnight trek helps. You're going to be sleep deprived. moderately, not extreme, but you'll get a couple of hours maybe. But you're going to be sleep deprived. It's going to be in the dark. So getting used to trekking with a headlamp and stuff like that really does make a difference. You've also said you're British Army. Nice, awesome, hard as nails, obviously, but swim like a brick. Is there any deep? Yeah, no deep water on the way to Kili or anything like that.
Yeah.
There's a couple of bridges you cross if you're on EBC, but when you're on Kili, nothing. There's a couple of streams and stuff like that you have to kind of go across, but like ankle deep. And then on the last day, it can be a bit slippery, but you won't drown. You'll just slide. I nearly took out like yeah, it was like a
slid and took everyone out, didn't you?
Yeah, well, me and Steve we were walking, remember, doing like the Dave and Steve show, just because we were bored and tired, into the GoPro, and I wasn't looking where I was going, and I put my foot on just this slippery slope of mud, and I'll be honest, styled it out. It was like Neo in the Matrix, kind of like.
Yeah, sorry. I think we missed one of Jerome's questions. I think it was Leah as well, just around swimming. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. There's always a lot of questions come in. I'll just read so we can find it. Any thoughts on swimming for general fitness, controlled breathing? Anyone swim regularly? Yeah, 100%. I mean, any cardio exercise, Jerome, is going to help you, mate. Whatever you do, it's always going to help. I mean, it's not, walking is walking at the end of the day, and there's nothing better. But also, I've personally got a couple of friends who do a lot of swimming, and they're pretty fit people. I don't actually do a lot of swimming. I used to, especially when I used to surf a lot more than I do these days. And obviously you've got to be pretty good in the water. And I spent a lot of time. I used to be a scuba diving instructor, so I used to spend a lot of time in the water. But with controlled breathing, it's definitely going to work. Personally, I've done a lot of because of my asthma. I've had some breathing exercises I kind of do myself, and I've seen people do in the mountains. Like if you ever trekking with me, you'll be able to hear me breathe. Put it that way, because it helps. Because the way I can control the breathing, and when I got to the top, I'm not that out of breath. I can get my heart rate down quite quickly. And that just comes from experience. But again, that's out in the mountains. But I'd say, if you're swimming, it's not going to hurt you because it's cardiovascular work. But don't just do swimming. And I know you know that you've been up Kili. You've got a lot of experience hiking as well. Get out in the mountains, mate. That's where you need to do it. But why not get in the water? It's good, isn't it? It's good for the soul as well. Just being able to swim. Why not?
Yeah, awesome.
Ramona, local swimming champion, the age of 12. Look at you. God, awesome. Ramona, you need to slow down, mate.
Yeah, exactly. And then Rebecca. Oh, it's Rebecca, Butterflies and Bees. Do they have good ankle support? Oh, I think Andy caught that one. Yes, they do. Brilliant. Let's have a quick look. Have we missed anything up? Quick mop up. Oh, Michelle Roshi did a matrix. I think I've coined the term doing a matrix when you slide. I mean,
yeah, brilliant.
Talking about slipping, there is a really funny video of me when I was up on doing the Horseshoe Ridge in some of the worst weather I've had on Brecon. Very similar. So Mick and Brian know about the weather conditions on Brecon. It was almost identical to that day. Coming down just after coming down Cribbin, actually. And I was on the video and I was trying to do like a promotional video, like, hey guys, Dave here from Evertrek. First of all, the wind was like, so you couldn't hear me. So I was like, and then all of a sudden you just see me go, just slip whilst on camera.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant. Bri, that wasn't me, but Bri was saying, was that you that phoned me the other night and practiced your breathing exercises? No, I don't do it in the nights, just during the day. So if I phone you during the day, Bri, that might be me. But no, I hope you go back to them and found out why they were heavy breathing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they just climbed Jacob's ladder.
They might have just 147 you, Bri, to get you back. So.
You were Jane mentioned. Can she see that video of you slipping, Dave?
I'll send it to you, Jane. I'll find it and put it up. Post it on the group. Yeah, I'll post it on the group. And
I got that video anyway. If he doesn't, I'll put it on there.
yeah. It's I think we edited it, didn't we? Because at the end, I think there was some 4-letter words that initially came out.
Colourful words there.
Some colourful words, yeah. But no, it was amazing. Like in my head, I think I was like Simone Biles in the air, like spinning and then like landing perfectly. I think in reality, it was more like, I don't know. I've always described it. Have you ever seen an albatross walking across rocks? Like how ungainly and weird it is? That's kind of what I was like.
That's how Dave hikes.
Analogy of the week, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Dave, look, great. I think we covered a lot of questions today. I hope that's been valuable. If you've joined in terms of training and where you need to do, what you need to go, how you need to think about things. Just to sort of cover off. In terms of remember, time over distance. Is always something that is more important. Getting out into the mountains or swimming if you're Jerome or Leah. It all helps, guys. Or Ramona. Yeah,
Swimming champ,
did it.
age 12.
From Ireland to the UK.
Yep.
But obviously fitness is so important. Don't forget about the other stuff though. Jerome mentioned he only drank 1.5 liters on Kili. You definitely want to be aiming for 4. So some of the top things we've covered today. We put the link in regarding some of the training weekends if you're interested. I'll come in some of those. It'd be great to see you. If you are booked on any trip this autumn, don't forget we have sent a little update today. I sent a little video update to everyone this autumn. If you're booked anywhere in Nepal, Tanzania, or South America, just a little update from us. We're going to be trying hyping up these updates now as we get closer and closer to running trips. Just to give you a little bit of insight into our world, so you can know exactly what we're like you guys. We're waiting for what comes off the list, what comes on the list, what happens in country, what we can do. We'll be updating you. But Dave, any final thoughts, mate, before we finish?
No, that's pretty much it from me. Those of you that are coming to the training weekend, see you Friday.
Yes, really excited.
At the White Hart Inn at Talabont. We'll see you there.
See you there. Yeah, great. Yeah, I really can't wait. First training weekend we've been able to do since 2019.
Yeah, and I met him action. I did think I might try and do a bit, but I don't know.
Take it easy, Dave. You can manage base camp, mate. We'll be fine.
Yeah. We'll see.
Great stuff. All right. Well, everyone, if you're on the training weekend, I'll see you on Friday. If not, I'll see you next Tuesday. Anything you need, just give us a buzz.
Nice one. Take it easy.
Bye.
There we do our news.